Throughout the last 400 years, African American people have been indoctrinated and brainwashed with so many different religions and taught so much cultural appropriation that most of us don't know who we are or what tribes we descend from. So, some of us in that time became eager and decided to search and attempt to discover what their true ethnic identity actually is. And sadly, we had ancestors in our history who were so engulfed in appropriating Jewish and Egyptian gods of Native American culture that they developed philosophies and cults that eventually educated many African Americans with a pseudo history. But can we actually fault all of them? Because these philosophies are drenched in the illusion that it's aimed to teach pride, revolution, and education on our historical identity. But in most of our truth, it only turns out to be Eurocentrism and blackface. But one of the first pioneers that I want to talk about of this black pseudo history was an ex slave and Christian preacher born in Charlotte Hall, Maryland in 1847 by the name of William Saunders Crowder. Now, Crowder was a pastor of a church called the Church of God and Saints of Christ. And during his time, Crowder's behavior, told by his peers, had said to become strange. He would have spells where he would sit and stare at nothing and be unaware of people speaking to him. Crowder would claim that he heard a voice from God telling him that black people were part of the 12 tribes of Israel. Immediately, that should have been a red flag because all of the Bible prophets deal in tribal names, not the color of someone's skin. Anyhow, Crowley started preaching his philosophy in Guthrie, Oklahoma, where he started a group called the Hebrew Israelites. Now, he also started tabernacles in Kansas, Chicago, and New York after being arrested over 22 times. But as we all know, none of his philosophy is true. 95% of African slaves were taken from the Ivory Coast of Africa, places like Ghana, Nigeria, Angola, Benin, and various Guinea coastal areas. During the Jewish diaspora, none of the Jews came to sub-Saharan areas. The Jews went into North Africa and places that were controlled by Romans, such as Carthage, Libya, Mauritania, and Egypt, mainly the coastal North African region. So, after the Byzantine and Roman Empire was driven out by the Ottoman Empire and the Muslims, the Jews wound up in Germany. Now, during the temple destruction, there was a small group of Jews that migrated and went into South Africa known as the Limba. DNA tests confirmed that most of the males in that tribe have a priestly Cohen marker that shows a past migration of Middle Easterners, which verifies their oral history. But none of this is present in African Americans. We weren't even in the region that these Jews lived. So us claiming to be directly descended from Jews is purely a crackpot ideology that's not supported by anything except eisegesis and misinterpretation of biblical passages like Deuteronomy 28. Now, the next pioneer of pseudo-Afrocentrism is Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. He is the pioneer of the Native American myth that African Americans adopt, which is further pushed by people like Dane Calloway. This is the idea that Africans left the west coast of Africa sometime in the past and came to America, and that the natives that we encounter today are actually Europeans who replaced those Native Americans. Now, for the life of me, I can't imagine why Europeans who are more civilized would trade places with indigenous people who are being murdered and having their land took just to live on the reservation. But for educational purposes, we can entertain it. Most of this idiocy started when the myth of Abu Bakr II is said to sail from Mali with 200 fleets of ships, and they all got lost at sea. But they didn't really get lost, according to Van Sertima and his believers. The current took them to the Americas, which are the dark natives, and they are direct descendants of those Africans. So Van Sertima and the Afrocentrics decided to push this theory as a historical fact. Not in a peer review, he just wrote books and held seminars about it. None of them could show the influence of West African culture on any Native American tribe. The most popular crop in Africa, which was rice, was never found. Even today, rice or jollof is a major dish in West Africa. So if a person is leaving with 200 fleets to an unknown land, I'm sure they're going to take rice seeds for trade because it's a value. No native tribes knew of sailing, rice, no camel imports, no Muslim beliefs or religion, nothing. And there is no way an advanced group of people could come to a tribal people and they not evolve to the knowledge of the settlers who are clearly living in a more advanced state of culture. And that's why you ended up seeing Native Americans with guns and rifles, because this is the advanced culture brought by the Europeans. Now, William Crowder and Ivan Van Sertima should be regarded as teaching Sambo philosophy. All it did in the long run was make black people further have a disconnect with their real cultural heritage. Just because Egypt was in Africa and Israel was next to it doesn't mean we are the same ethnicity or race as them. North Africans and Sub-Saharan Africans are not the same and is more than just a geographical term used by Europeans. It distinguishes an entire different people with a different phenotype and genotype. We are West Africans. We need to start there first. Cello the Great.